This is our first ever Education on Air conference, and today we have 46 Hangouts on Air with over 50 educators, leading discussions on a number of topics in education technology. So thanks to all the presenters for giving their time to this, and to all of you for watching. All of our presenters have early access to Hangouts on Air, which is a technology that allows you to broadcast and record Hangouts. To watch any of the sessions today, simply go to the presenter's Google Plus page at the appointed time. You can also find a list of all the sessions and links to presenters' Google Plus pages on the conference website at sites.google.com/site/EduOnAir. Again, that's sites.google.com/site/EduOnAir. And now to introduce Kern Kelley. So Kern has been an educational technologist for over 10 years. He teaches at RSU 19 in Central Maine and is currently working with the Maine International Center for Digital Learning to create a statewide online course delivery system. He is a Google certified teacher and has conducted professional development at the state, national, and international levels. So with that, Kern, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks a lot, Jordan. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what we've been doing as far as using Google tools to create courses, to manage courses, and to kind of share them with the students, with staff. And then as questions come up, let me know either in the chat or as you guys have questions, we can talk about that. I'm going to go through a little bit of a presentation to kind of show what we've done, but really as an idea of kind of a conversation starter so we can discuss that and talk more about, which things to make sense to people, which tips and tricks that they might have to add to that. So I'm going to pull up a couple different sites here. We'll do our screen share. And you should have, okay, there we go, good. So this is the site page that we're going to use for, oops. Okay, we finally got it up. This is my page, and any of the resources that I talk about as far as sharing show how-tos, that kind of stuff is all, you can find it here. And as questions come up, if there's more things that we want to share, something that I went too fast on or kind of you want a step-by-step, I'll put it in here, videos or tutorials or any of that kind of stuff. You can find me, kernkelley.com is the easiest way to find me online. There are a lot of different course systems out there right now, and I'll be honest with you, when we first started talking about this with MICDL, which is Maine's International Center for Digital Learning, I wanted to make it really clear that I wasn't interested in kind of recreating what's been out there. There's a lot of different online courses, statewide or national. There's, Phoenix, obviously. There's Florida Virtual System, Vermont, and there's a bunch of different ones. And I wanted to be able to take something that used kind of off-the-shelf software using Google tools that are all free, that be available to anybody, and make courses out of them that we could basically give away. When I say give away, what I mean by that is that other teachers that want to use that content would be able to, so it become a repository to use. That also includes the tools to be able to assess and collect information and to manage an online course system. And the idea being that even if a course wasn't delivered online, you could still use these tools to do so. And because they're Google tools, because they're all free and available, online, so what does it matter which browser you're using or which operating system, PC, Mac, whatever, you'd be able to just be able to use the work and go from there. So one of the questions we talked about is how can educators better connect with the students? One of the things that we found in our situation with kids using online courses is they didn't really feel a real connection with their teachers. So some of the courses that I've looked at, the way that the course is built or designed, it doesn't matter if you've got 5 kids in there or 500 kids in there. And I think that's a real problem. The course systems that we're looking at or trying to build, or the structure we're using, it really makes a difference. A teacher with 20, 25 students is really kind of a key thing. So it's really meant to be a one teacher kind of situation with a number of students. If you have more students, then you have to get more teachers. So it's not going to be something that's going to just kind of flow where you've got one course that works for 100 kids. It just won't work out. We really kind of emphasize the teacher's role in that. This is the site itself. It's let me pull it up here, mevlc.org, Maine Virtual Learning Consortium. Again, this is what we're doing. We're doing the process of having multiple districts join, or different schools join together and offer courses. And when we do that, they'd offer a course and they'd get other seats in return. And so the plan is for next year to be able to have all these managed using Google tools to be able to kind of run the structure behind it. I'm going to show you examples. For example, an example of a course website. We do use Google Sites for that as far as the curation of the content and the delivery of the content. And then I'll show you some of the stuff we use to kind of manage that from a teacher's perspective. So this is a sample course site. This is kind of the opening page here. This is U.S. history, contact to the Civil War. It's got pretty typical stuff as far as syllabi there and a calendar that kind of shows different things in each of the assessments. But inside, this is where we start to pull together some of the stuff that's available online as far as images, videos. We actually use Google Books when we can, as far as using pieces of those. So this actually book is over, I can't remember how old it is, but it's over copyright issues, and be able to share podcasts. All this stuff that we want our kids to be able not only to use, but to be comfortable with and know how to use as well. We have a piece here that we use to kind of not only to build the course, this is for the teacher end, but as it builds the course, it also provides what we're calling a course book for the student. And that's what they use to go through the courses and be able to look at assessments, see how they're doing, hand stuff in, and finally get a summary for that. And I'm going to show you that. This is a sample version. This isn't a real version here. So what the idea is that the assessments would be built by the teacher initially, starting off, and as they go through and build the assessments, they kind of build this list, and the students go through unit by unit, and they can take different assessments that they want. We do a thing called paths, so teachers can create multiple paths for a single assessment, so there's different ways that they can show they want to accomplish that topic. Once they've done that, we have different categories and the different actual assessments themselves. These are all links to them. Obviously, everything's digitized because it's online. We can assume that, and because of that, we also can talk more about what things can we do with that information, knowing that it's going to be virtual, knowing it's going to be digitized, that we can expect that we may not be able to expect in a regular traditional classroom. And kind of the final piece here that is built as the students go through. So as the students go through and build, choose their assessments and hand things in. Here's another unit here. So they've got different assessments. They can choose different paths. And as they choose different paths, it will adjust what things are expected of them and how they hand things in. And this course book, as we're calling it, it's basically a Google spreadsheet the student has themselves. And they're handing this in to the teacher. The teacher will collect all that information and be able to assess it. The final piece of this is what we're calling the digest, the course summary. And the idea here is that this is built as the students go, and they can look at all these, throughout. So for a couple examples here, we will be heavy on using video reflections. So as students do video reflections, not huge things, a minute or two, kind of hand those in digitally. These will automatically collect and be available for the parents or for whoever, it should be able to see that, the teachers, that kind of thing. Also, the elements of education, and what we're doing with that is not only looking at the work itself, the actual content, but also the student as a worker. Do they have initiative? Do they have quality control? What things can they work on to be better with the community or communications? And as they do that, to be able to reflect that in a graphic way so that they can understand what things they need to work on. The comment structure, using word clouds to be able to kind of take a number of different comments to help the student to kind of get them to a certain place and then be able to kind of really reflect quickly to the parents to be able to show what they're doing. As far as the assignments and when the timing of them, because of the online course and how we're doing it, you either complete a assessment, you either meet standard in assessment, show proficiency, or you're still working on it. So the timing of that can change. You may have some students that finish pretty quickly and are done, or you may have the students that kind of take a longer time. And we're building into a structure where the students can see each assessment, how long it's taking them, and for individual cases. So it's not like a single due date for the entire course. It's due dates that are flexible depending on the students themselves and what work they've done and what they need to keep working on. And finally, I think it's a really important point is once they've shown proficiency in certain pieces of work, to be able to, for them to show each assessment individually. If you have a score, in our educational systems, we score things all the time, without the ability to show the work itself, I think that's less useful. I think we should be basically a click away from showing the students work of what they did, what we're scoring them on. Let me jump back here. Oh, we have John. Great. I'd also like to introduce John Newland. He is, I'm working with him. He's from the MICDL group. With this project, the mevlc.org Hi, John. Oh, are you muted? Are you muted, John? Can you hear me?
Oh. Looks like John is muted, unfortunately.
No problem. I think you'll get it here. So anyway, so we're working in conjunction with a number of different districts. Oh, there we are. Hi, John. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks. Sorry I'm late. Technical difficulties.
No problem. We're just talking about basically our structure that we're using, using Google tools to do the online courses. We're at a place now we are starting to get more districts that are very interested in kind of joining us and kind of building that consortium. And this is really, in this case, a state effort. We're really focusing on Maine, but pieces of it are certainly things that could be replicated outside the state or in other places that want to use this type of structure. I don't know if there's any questions at this point. I can continue on, but.
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, John.
I'm sorry. It's something's muting me automatically. I'm not doing it, so I'm not. I'm going to just be quiet anyway. So.
Yeah, Mike, do you have a question? Go ahead, please.
Yes. Regarding the course book, that's a spreadsheet,
yep.
And I hadn't seen how you had put. I hadn't seen. There was a really nice digest there with all the different graphs, and you had a graph there that was said it was powered by ViewPath, and so it looks like that spreadsheet kind of also is where they report, but also is where they can get feedback on their progress. Is that
exactly how it works? Is that spreadsheet? The teachers initially create the template version of that. As they're building the course, they're filling it in. They're filling in what assessments they need, what their units are called, all kind of the nuts and bolts of a course. When they're done, they'll make that available for students to take. Students can basically click on it and they'll get a virtual copy of that course book, is what we're calling it. At that point, the students use that to fill in their, as they do assessments, as they're going through, because again, the idea here is because it's online, each student can have their own pace of what they are capable, how fast they want to go or how slow they want to go. So as they do that, the teacher will receive the responses from that. They'll receive like, okay, Johnny's up to this point and Susie's at this point. And again, as I mentioned earlier, everything's obviously digitized because it's online, so they'll be able to kind of click on all those and see them and score them appropriately. The final piece, that digest piece, I will say that is very much a work in progress right now. We're still kind of fine-tuning what we want it to look like, finally, as far as how we're going to structure that. But as a mindset, we really want students to be able to check, and parents, at any time to kind of see the progress of the students as they're going. They can kind of see their own piece, like, oh, I'm really good, I've done this pretty well, but I still need to work on this. And all of their work is basically a click away to be able to pull up the actual work itself.
It looks like I just saw a quick question come in from Frank. Is there a template available for the student assessment coursebook spreadsheet you were showing?
There absolutely will be, not today, not yet. My intention is once we get to a kind of a little bit more finalized spot than we are today, to basically make that stuff all available. I want to kind of have that a little bit more finalized as far as kind of the rough edges of the programming, the scripting involved, and some of the other stuff to make it be as bulletproof as possible, so that when we give it to people, they can just take it and they can use it and do what they want with it. So coming soon. I can continue on if we want. Let me pull up my screencast again. So we're up to the place of the course book itself, and again, that's that kind of Google spreadsheet that they take and the students use. There is a mindset shift here that it's important to note. You are giving more power to the student, which I don't think is a bad thing. One of the things that I haven't been totally comfortable with some of the online systems that I've seen and I've used is that they basically, in some effect, are digital versions of a very traditional classroom. you're still going through the teacher to kind of hand stuff in, and you're still going through their, you're uploading stuff, but you're sending it through them. It's kind of that gateway mentality. And I really like to change that 180 degrees if we can, where the student has their stuff. They're working on stuff. They allow the teacher to see it, to share with the teacher, so the teacher can make comments and they can help them and be a part of that. But the student really owns their work, and that student ownership, I think, is huge, and not just from a an ideological aspect, but from a real specific aspect where they actually have their stuff in their account, and we can see it as we need. Another important part, and actually I did want to bring this page up. Whoops. Let me jump over here for a second. We have a thing called a self-assessment survey, and basically what that is obviously, online courses aren't for everyone. And we're talking more high school. Our focus right now is high school students. So one of the things we've done is create a self-assessment where students can go through and kind of go step by step. And if somebody said to me, hey, Mr. Kelley, I'm not sure if this course would be right for me. What do you think? I would say, well, check this out. Come here and go through these. And if you like these questions and you can answer them, and they're not just technical questions, technology-wise, there's a little bit of that in there. But if you feel comfortable with these, then you'd feel comfortable in the course. And if you really wouldn't, then you may not. You may want to check that again to see if it's something that you want to. For example, our first task is to have them create a Gmail account. Now, we don't want a Gmail account for its own sake. What it is if you're somebody who either has a technical ability, great, or if you don't, but you're willing to go find out. You're willing to say, I don't know how to do this thing, but I'm willing to go research a little bit and figure out on my own how to do that. That's kind of the mindset we want. And we'll obviously provide them the help for them to do that. So we'll give them tutorials or videos, whatever they need to be able to kind of teach themselves. And that's a big part of this whole process where kids are learning how to learn. Another task we have in there, sharing docs, doing screencasts. One idea is that we want them so that later on in the course, if there's a technical question, they can't be like, hey, I didn't know we were going to have to do that. We kind of nip that in the bud, get that right out of the way where they know how to do some of the technical stuff right off the bat. And here's another one I like. We have an answer question, what does the Pacific Northwest tree octopus eat? And if you don't know, it's kind of a trick question. It's not a real thing. But if you go to Google it, the very first link that comes up is a realistic-looking website that is actually fake. And the question there for the students is what typically they do is they just copy and paste the information and put it right in the answer, and off they go. They don't really think about it. And we want them to really question all this work that they're doing. Like, okay, so if the teacher's asking you something, it's not just a copy-paste situation. You need to think about this. Does this make sense? So any situation where we can put them into that, we want to do so. Finally, using a webcam, just basically taking a picture. We do have a real important part of this is that we want to have video reflections as one of the pieces. I mentioned earlier, let me pull it back up again. I mentioned earlier about how can we connect better. These aren't online courses that are going to be a single course that's available, that'll be appropriate for 100 kids at once to take. These would be courses that a single teacher would work with, whatever that number should be, 20, 25, whatever that number should be, and the video piece of that I think is a really important part of this. Not only the students getting comfortable doing video reflections and kind of handing that in as assessment pieces, but also us using, for example, Google Hangouts. That's a nice picture. It's kind of frozen on me right here. One of our intentions is to use Google Hangouts for us to be able to, to connect with kids. Either it's weekly or bi-weekly or however often they need. I'm really, really excited about using Google Hangouts. I've looked at other situations, other solutions for video conferencing, and Google Hangouts with the extras, with the ability to upload, to pull up Google Docs and some of this other stuff we're working in. It's a fantastic medium for us to be able to do so. Any other questions, Jordan, from the chat, or I can?
So it looks like a few people want to be invited into the actual Hangout,
Sure.
and I think we still have room. So if you can find Paul Kendrick, I think he was in our previous Henry. Yep. Gary Ritter, he's from CPCC, and he posted on the comment stream on your page. So you should find these people here. And anyone else, feel free to just post on the comment stream if you'd like an invite. We have some room in the Hangout.
Absolutely. That's great. The more the merrier. And if you guys have any questions, just pipe up and we can certainly chat about that. Let's see if I just invited them, so they should be up. The last thing I'm going to share, as far as kind of showing off some of the actual specific resource that we use, I want to show one more, and then we can kind of just chat for a while. Is zooming back and forth here. This is something that I shared in my last session with doing digital portfolios, and this isn't specifically about portfolios, but it's a real helpful way for us to be able to collect digital work from our students. This is a Google form, Google spreadsheet, and how it looks like, the live form looks something like this, where students would come in and they put their name in here, and then they choose, I mean in this case, obviously if it's an online course you wouldn't have periods, but if it's a non-online course you might have periods, your assignment names, assignment 1, assignment 2, whatever it is, and they'd copy and paste the link to their work. So if it's a Google Doc, they would have shared that with the teacher, and then they kind of copy and paste the link of it. What that does for the student is that's how they hand it in, right? We used to have, boxes in the side of the classroom that has the hand-in box. That's what the equivalent of is here. And it generates a spreadsheet like this for the teacher, so they have all their stuff in one place. They then can go to the filter tab if they want, and they can pull up by period or by class or however they've organized that, and by assignment. That provides these lists so that they don't have to have in their Google Docs list. I know how it happens. You get hundreds and hundreds of documents from students, and it gets very unmanageable very quickly. This way, they can basically filter it down to just that one assignment or just that one period if they want. And then additionally, another tab here is this goes through, and it's actually a built-in iframe into the Google spreadsheet that allows you to live edit the work in front of you. So, for example, if students are handing in Google Sites, you could and they have shared with you, you'd be able to go right in and edit from here, and then you can click Next, and you'll be able to pull up the next assignment. Let's say it's a Google Doc, and these are all sample ones, but you'll be able to go right in. So you don't even have to leave the spreadsheet to work on that work, and that gets it a little bit more manageable way for you to be able to go top to bottom to be able to use this stuff, because you start getting in all these documents, it gets unmanageable pretty quickly. And this is something that it is live as far as I have shared this assessment collector out if you want it. The URL, I have a blog post that goes through step by step on how to, step 1, take this assessment collector. Step 2, how do I set it up for my own class? There is a little bit of scripting in it. All the scripting does is that it replaces websites that start with HTTPS with the code HTTP. It doesn't like HTTPS because it's a secure socket layer. So basically, if you enable that scripting, if you don't want to, you don't have to do it. You can just do it by hand. But if you enable that scripting, it will update that automatically when they enter forms. And then at that point, you have this ability to be able to go back and forth and not have to actually, open each individual document by themselves. So that is available. That will be on the site as far as let's go back here. If you want to be able to come to this page to be able to find that stuff.
Looks like Mike had a question in the group chat.
Yes. Back on the self-assessment survey, Kern, when you asked for the Gmail, did you wrestle with, do you actually give the students a domain account as well, or how do you wrestle with they got 2 accounts?
That's a great question, and we actually did. For that piece specifically, for that self-assessment survey, I didn't want there to be any friction for the students to be able to do it. So I want them to be able to use their own account. If they already have an email account, they can use that. If they don't, they're going to create their own Gmail account basically just for that survey. And all that does is it walks them through five different tasks for them to accomplish, and to say, okay, I've done this. If I'm comfortable with these 5 tasks, I know how to do these, then I will be comfortable in these courses as far as the technical ability goes. So I thought about went back and forth about should I create them accounts, but then if you do that, that stops them cold, right? They have to wait till you create an account and send them that and all that kind of stuff. So they're basically creating a throwaway account just for this purpose. And then from then, when they're in our courses, then they will have accounts that go with our domain, yes. I mean, when they go through that self-assessment survey, they'll receive automatically, when they put the email in, they'll receive an automated email that sends them back their results and what they said and what we would say, how we respond to that. So, for example, the question about the Northwest Pacific tree octopus, I kind of put a link in there and say, I got you a little bit, but we want you to, kind of think about it a little bit and expand your mind as far as, don't always just kind of take the first link in Google that comes up if you don't research a little bit more. So.
I wanted to address a couple of questions I saw on the stream. This is more just on the product of Google Plus and availability for K-12 and primary and secondary schools. So today, Google Plus is only available for users that are age 13 and above, or for higher education institutions. So that means if you're a K-12 organization or under 13, you are not able to use Google Plus at this time. We definitely know that there's a lot of interest. I definitely think Google Plus could be a powerful tool for online learning and for everyone. So we know that it's important and it would be a big opportunity for you all, but we want to do it right. And we know that there's additional things that would need to be in place for that. So it's not available today, but we've definitely heard the feedback that you all want it. So stay tuned. Just wanted to address that. And if there's any other questions, please continue to add them on the comment stream on the video.
I can continue on if you want, or we can, any other questions at this point? All right, I'll pull up. We talked a little bit about...
Kern, sorry, there was one quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
Lynn Swanson asked, can you use the tools and embed all this into a site for K-12?
Say that again, what do you mean? I'm not sure.
She asked, can you use all of these tools that you're talking about, I think the forms and everything, yep. Can you embed this all into a site for K through 12?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one of our, when we finalize a course, let's say we have a course, for example, that U.S. Contact to the Civil War course, our intention is to make it available, so if you are a history teacher and you want to look at this course and say, wow, this is really cool, you'll click the Use the Template button, and not only will you get the template of the website, the Google site, with all that information with it, you'll also get all the forms, all these pieces will kind of come with it. So the idea is that if you are a teacher and you have a Google account, either a Google Apps domain account or just your own account, you can go to a course that's been created, click Use Template, and you'll get all that stuff with it. At that point, you kind of update it and do what you want with it. Hopefully, we'll have good enough stuff on there that it's that useful that you want to use it all on there. But Amanda, do you have a question?
Mandy, can you unmute yourself in the upper right-hand corner?
Okay, got it. I was hitting the wrong thing. Yeah, my question is whether you have a way of collecting all the assessment together so that the students themselves can see it. I use a rag sheet in Google Docs, which the students absolutely adore because they love to get into kind of competition with each other and they want to go green, and so they line up at my desk and make me mark stuff, which is a really good way of making me mark stuff. Not necessarily getting them to do stuff well, but still. Half the battle is won.
Yeah, built into that assessment, that course book is a place where they basically has all their assessments they put in for them to click on.
And can they see each other's?
Good question. Not specifically. The teacher would be able to do that. The teacher is pulling them all together, and if they wanted to share, they could. Any student that wanted to share with somebody else could certainly do that, but it doesn't do it automatically.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? We had a teacher this year who, she had students in actually 5th grade, and they were doing writing, and they were using Google Docs, and one of the students had created a Google Doc for stories, for like fantasy stories that they wrote, and they would share it with other students, and it was purely for fun. It was just to share with each other, and they were writing for fun, and it was kind of cute and whatever. And finally, the teacher asked, like, guys, can I see? Would you mind sharing with me so I can see what you guys are doing? And it wasn't for assessment or assignment. It was just because the kids want to do it. And it was, to me, that's a fantastic to kind of get beyond just what we're asking them to do, but it gets to the point where it's actually, the kids are using these tools because they want to, which is exactly what we want. That is one. Actually, that's one other point, and I was going to mention this at the end, but I'll throw it in now. One of the other kind of aspects of some of the other online course structures that I've seen that I don't care for is if you're using a technology that you're only going to use basically to take online courses, that is less useful to me than if you're using tools and technologies that you're going to use for whatever you're going to use it for. For example, all the Google stuff, when you leave that course, most of those things will be useful to you in whatever you're doing. If it's word processing, if it's creating forms, if it's creating spreadsheets, whatever it is. If I'm doing something in a kind of a assessment system that's basically just for school, just for this course, and when I'm done, I'm never going to use it again. Basically, unless I take another course, I just find that it's too bad. It's just kind of a waste of time where you could use something that's actually going to be more productive to them later on. I do get asked sometimes, we are in effect using this as a learning management system, an LMS. This is not specifically an LMS. It's not designed, as far as it's not going to replace Blackboard and some of the stuff that they do or whatever in these other places. But again, it's a mindset shift where the students are more in control than some people maybe feel comfortable with some of these other systems, and that's something that I actually want them to be. I want them to kind of be in control of their learning and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it does work really well. Oh no, I'm on. It does work really well for when they are working together and when they can collaborate. And I think for me, what the strength is with doing, I haven't really set it up like you have, by the way, at all. I mean, not nearly as organized. But in terms of using, I've been battling with how to use digital products like this in the classroom against using, what's the point of having a virtual learning environment if kids are in the classroom? They're right in front of you. So it just becomes a resource dump. Whereas what I love about Google Docs is all of a sudden there's a real reason to use it because the feedback is so immediate. The assessment is amazingly fast. I'm sitting at my desk and yes, I could walk around the room, but actually I can manage 3 or 4 things much more quickly if I'm sitting at my desk. Plus, of course, I can do everything the usual way and get them to do work later.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. One of the things that I covered in the portfolio session I did earlier was talking about how a real mindset shift for us, and I didn't realize how important this would be, but because they are able to do the work in the same system as they're handing it in. I mean, they're not typing a paper in Word and they're going to publish it. They're going to save it and they're going to go upload it to Moodle or something like that. Like it's all one piece. And especially for our younger kids, our 5th graders, 6th graders, so forth, it makes it that much smoother. Like the process to go from, basically like you talked about earlier, the dump, where you have all this stuff inside of it, all this Google Docs or all these assessments, and then you're going to the educational portfolio, which you have the stuff that we're asking for, and then finally you're going to that kind of showcase portfolio, which that's what you're going to promote. That's what you're going to show, the world. One thing that we do is that we buy our senior class gift for all of our seniors, graduating seniors, is their own web domain name. So, for example, we buy, johnsmith.com, and we have that forward to their portfolio, a Google site that they've been working on, hopefully, for 12 years. And then that's what they take with them as their 21st century business card.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mike, do you have a question?
Yes. I'm fascinated with this. You said that there was the teachers could get these templates that had the assessment spreadsheet and the site. Are these grouped together in a collection in Google Docs that you share with that teacher? Or how is it?
When you create a template, like in a site, as a site, and you embed, like, for example, whatever you embed, you can embed, documents or whatever, they can use that template and take it with them.
Oh, I see. So the site really serves as the container for all these other documents that go into it.
Right.
And when you share it with them, then they also get those documents.
Exactly.
Okay.
For good or bad. Sometimes, like I've used templates before that has all kinds of stuff that comes with it, and I kind of go through. You have to kind of clean it out. But in this case, we build kind of packages, like as you put them, that would have the site themselves of the course material and also those kind of documents that would go with it. Those other assessment documents or whatever they are.
Very nice.
And these are things I'll tell you as far as timeline. Our intention right now is by the beginning of next year, hopefully this summer, we'll have to finalize this, to have these available. So I know we'll have, as of right now, I think there's 20 courses that we're going to have that would be basically just available to whoever's interested in kind of taking them. Not ready today, not ready quite yet, but that's the plan. Oh, that's your next question. Yeah, and I also said that these will be geared for high school level. We're focusing right now on 9th to 12th grades. We've been asked about middle schools, and we kind of will start here and work our way down as we go forward and up. If there's no more questions right now, we can. How about the blank template? What do you mean by that, Mandy?
What I mean is that you have the structure set up. So you have the structure set up, but yet without the details inside each course. But you have the right Excel sheet. You have the right spreadsheet. You have the links already in place, plus the scripting that you were talking about. How about whether you might have the blank? That's what I mean by the blank template.
I see what you're saying.
Blank.
Yeah. We'll have, that's a good question. I mean, initially the idea is to have the actual courses that have been created available. Everything inside of this will be, our organization will be doing will be Creative Commons licensing, so everything will be available for people to take and use and whatever. As far as the blank template to create that, certainly I don't see why we couldn't have that available as well.
I think that would be fantastic, because I can't use your work because
right.
I'm following a different curriculum, but at the same time I could certainly use the container. Sure. And the just even if it was just to help me to design my own and to take it further and then share it back, that would.
And that that really brings us to part of the what I would consider some of the promise of technology in education. Some of the things that we've talked a lot of time about what we should be able to do or what we can do and what we want to do. And what this does is gets to a place where as far as transparency goes, like when you have to create a course. All your stuff is out there, right? I mean, for good or bad. I mean, it's available so people can see it, and warts and all. And that's a good learning process for our teachers, for our students, for the whole thing. And as we make changes year by year, make updates and improve upon them, hopefully they get better. I mean, that's all we can do. And so I think it's a mindset shift for teachers to get to, and sometimes they find that a little scary, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, just to add to that, there's a lot of buzz going around the Harvard and MIT announcement with joint online courses, and then I'm starting to see a lot of articles being linked off to. They're talking about the barriers and challenges to adopting more of an online learning and assessment style. Particularly, one thing I'm seeing is some professors and teachers still like to retain a lot of control over their course, and the concern is if you move more towards an online model, you lose that control and flexibility. And I was just curious, have you all encountered that at Maine, and what do you think about that?
It's too late. It's too late. I mean, the kids are, and maybe MIT and Harvard, these people are kind of, acknowledging that because it doesn't matter as far as like if they're not learning from us, they're learning somewhere. They're going online, they're going to YouTube, they're going to places, they're kind of figuring stuff out. What we become as teachers, and make this very clear, this does not diminish the role of a teacher in any way. It actually makes it more valuable. It's not a question now of course, is there enough information? There's too much information. Well, the curation of that information, and it's not just a matter of like certain people curate in a certain way, and the wisdom that teachers bring for their students and put them into educational experiences where they can do things that they wouldn't necessarily do in a regular traditional classroom are opportunities, as I see. Again, things that the technology allows. One thing that we've talked about in the MEVLC organization is focusing more on mobile learning. Having students, because again, they're not in the classroom, we're able to say like, okay, as a mobile student, can you go find this information, or can you go, take pictures of certain things, or whatever it is, whatever that means, and a little bit more real to life in the sense that, what we're doing kind of outside the school walls.
Mm-hmm. I see a couple of questions that came in on the stream. Mark Hammer asks, have you purchased content and uploaded it to Google? I'm wondering about whether you can take content in Common Cartridge and make it easily available.
We have not. I don't know if you can, but we have not. Everything that we're using is, copyright free or open source or whatever. If we can stay away from that, that just handles a whole bunch of situations we won't have to deal with if it's possible. Paul, you had a question? I want to make sure we get.
Oh, Paul, make sure you unmute yourself.
Got it. I was picking on my picture and not actually the microphone at the top of the screen, but there you go. No, it's just I've got. I work in an FE college and further education, so we have what we call work-based learning programs, and I'm just wondering about trying to use this with learners or adults out in the workplace doing apprenticeships and those sorts of things, particularly as these times of austerity. The amount I'm just wondering if it could be used along with Hangouts to minimise the time and cost of lecturers going out to the workplace to assess what the students been doing. I mean, obviously from watching your earlier one as well, your earlier presentation, quite intrigued around the idea of having this online course, but part of those uploading processes being videos of the apprentices in the workplace performing the tasks that are required for assessment, which could then be viewed by the lecturer back at the college and assessed on that basis. Potentially, because I mean, as I say, obviously, I mean, Norfolk is in over here is quite a rural county, and getting around it is it's a little bit like walking through treacle. We have no motorways or anything, so it's quite archaic in terms of travel.
Sounds like me.
So I'm just so I'm trying to get my head around how I could actually take what you're doing with sort of younger students and take that out into sort of the work-based learning approach and with the apprentices who are affiliated to the college. I can certainly see an awful lot of benefits from that side of things, especially looking back at what you were saying earlier about the uploading of photographic evidence from phones and the such like, that they could actually you could probably cut back an awful lot on the need for lecturers to spend valuable time on the road, basically. So yes, I've been quite interested. Putting this one together with what you were talking about earlier is kind of, well, I'll probably get a headache later on when I try and think of how I'm going to blend it all together, but it's certainly food for thought.
Yeah, I will tell you this, and kind of address that, I think, a little bit. Certainly, obviously, distance learning, and we have, I don't know, exact situation, but a similar situation in Maine. You know, we're pretty geographically diverse and hard to get from to here to there, whatever. And so any opportunities we can provide for our students wherever they are and as cheaply as possible. You know, basically you have internet access, you have a computer with a webcam, you're in. You know, you have all you need. We very specifically, when we go through the different resources that we use, I want to be able to make a conscious decision to be available to as many platforms as possible. For example, as of right now, we're really I've put time and energy in making sure that any of the courses we have would be usable on an iPad. Not that I necessarily care about them using on an iPad, but if that's what they had as a device, they would still be able to use it. And that may not continue all the way through it, but as of right now, that's the case. And as far as the lecturing piece, one thing I think that is, you know, some of the other courses, some of the other universities started with, they thought, well, for online courses, no problem. We can just put a camera at the end of a room, have our teacher talk like they always do, and just put that video up online. And now we have an online course. And anybody that's dealt with that very much knows that's not the case. We're talking a lot about professional development for our teachers. What is it different? How is it different to do online courses, including video, different than what you would normally do? It's not just putting a camera in the corner of the room and saying, okay, I now have an online, video course.
Okay, yeah, that kind of answers. I think that's certainly. I noticed that Mandy raised the point. You need to train them, make sure the students have got an understanding of how apps work, etc. Which is, I think, it'll be a lot easier to run a couple of sessions, getting them used to how apps work, than travelling backwards and forwards every week to see the latest video or the latest set of photographs or the latest piece of work. So yeah, no, I think it's certainly something I'm going to have to develop over the coming weeks to try and get it ready for the next intakes in September. So yes, it's very interesting stuff.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I will say this too. As far as, again, you're talking about older, adults and whatnot, and so that may not apply here, but one of the things that we've talked about is some of our technical support that we'd like to be able to supply to the locations, to the schools and districts, is we really want to focus on the students being part of that tech support process. So pretty much every school that we'll have, there will be kids there that are capable of doing this kind of stuff, as far as, the technical ability and the wherewithal. So if we're able to kind of use that any way we can, I'm all for it. Not only is it good for the kids, it's good for us, and it's good for everybody. I can continue on if we'd like. Do that.
Kern, I have a quick question. Oh.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
There we go. Are you going to also include Google Plus, like in with the sites and the docs? Is that part of the plan too?
It wouldn't be. I don't know that Google Plus goes with it. In fact, I don't think it does. So I really wish, and I know this is not going to be the case, but I wish that you could turn on Hangouts as its own thing and Google Plus separately. You can let Google know that. That's my my wish. I know it's not going to be the case, but because there's uses we have for. Let me turn that off. Sorry. Sorry about that. But as far as the video conferencing, that kind of stuff that this offers, different than Google Plus in itself as a social network. Is there uses for it? Of course there are, and educational uses and that kind of stuff. But what we're going to be doing with it, as far as the content, as far as the assessments, as far as the structures, we probably won't use it. I don't foresee.
Are you encouraging student collaboration, like even on documents, you can chat? Like me and my son worked together on a document for school, and we were right there in the chat together. And that's something you don't need. You don't have to have Google Plus for that.
Correct. That's right. And
are you encouraging those kind of collaborations?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, because this comes up a lot. Chat in education, especially in a middle school or a high school education or K-12 education, is a dirty word. Chat is bad, right? You can't be chatting. But in effect, a Google Doc, which you're collaborating with somebody else, is a chat, or could be. And if I type something and you respond to it, we're chatting. Now, of course, it's what you do with it, right? And invariably, we have students, like I said earlier, I think either this session or last session, talked about, one of the things I do at the beginning of the year is I have a Google spreadsheet or a Google Doc, and I share it with an entire class, and all the kids go on, and they can see how each one of them can type stuff, and they can all see each other, and it's kind of fun. And then invariably one kid will say something that's inappropriate, right, because they think they get away with it. Now, not only does it show exactly who did it, what their name is, it shows their avatar name, I stop the class, we make a big deal of it, I walk in front of class and tell everybody, look, if you say this online, if you type this online, it's the same thing as if you said it in front of the entire class. You stood up and said it. And our rule of thumb is, don't say anything or don't type anything that you wouldn't say in front of your grandmother. And if you wouldn't do that, then I don't want to see it online. Now, by doing that in a very safe location, that classroom, the worst case scenario is only people in that classroom are going to know what's going on. So it's a very safe environment for them to make a mistake and learn from. That's what I want to give them. I want them to be able to make mistakes in a safe way, and that they're not going to make that same mistake hopefully later on at home on their own on who knows what. So yeah, I think that using those kind of chat-ish kind of features in like docs and that kind of stuff is a great idea. One thing, John, did you want to mention about us using students?
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I'm not sure if everybody can see the group chat, but I did mention that the students that are going to be identified in each of these schools where my automatic light turn off.
Move more.
We're gonna do some training for those folks. Many of these students, of course, are going to be very familiar with the Google tools already, but some of their training is going to be about how do you work with an adult who isn't so happy about having a student who, quote, knows more than they know, helping them think through how to be a more effective teacher. And so, there are disarming ways that students can do that, and we hope that we'll be able to develop those skills in students. And then the students are going to get paid. That's actually built in the budget, into the budget of the program.
Yeah, just to add to that, we have a lot of our colleges and universities in the higher ed space. We have a wonderful program called the Google Student Ambassadors, and they're basically college students who are passionate about technology and products, not just Google's tools, but everything that's available out there. And they've been wonderful to leverage for schools, and looking to pair them up with faculty or teachers or staff on how to make more use of products. So, we kind of have other schools have their own version. They call them Google Experts or Google Guides. So it can be really helpful to have that in any environment where you have kind of train-the-trainer model. And then also I think it's interesting for teachers and educators to hear from the students' perspective too. As they are kind of growing up in this technology and they have an interesting take on it.
Do you know if there's a sort of a curriculum that's been developed for the Google ambassadors? I wonder if that's something, Kern, we might want to access if it's available.
Yeah, it's available.
Not to my knowledge, but I could definitely check on that. I think the ambassador program itself is only about a few years old now, so it's still a little new. But we're learning best practices and what works well. And I work with them throughout the year, so I meet with about 150 or so of them every year based in the U.S., and we're starting to expand the program globally too. So we have, pretty soon we'll have, I think, over 1,000 ambassadors all over the world. So I think, eventually we could develop some kind of curriculum. Right now I think we're figuring out, what are the best ways to approach people, approach a class, approach a teacher, professor, approach a club or a group. Because everyone will have different needs and backgrounds, but I think the interest is there and the community is there to support that, definitely. And actually, just kind of adding to that, I saw that Gary Ritter asked, have any of you all talked to any of the community colleges or four-year schools in your area so your students might be able to continue with some of these activities?
Continue with which activities? What do you mean?
I think he was referring to, I'm not quite sure what Gary was referring to. Gary, if you want to add on the comment there to clarify, but it might have been working with teachers individually. I think that's what he might have been referring to.
Yeah, I mean, in my district, or what we do, having students as part of the solution is a huge aspect of what we do. We had my last session, I had one of my students here to kind of talk from a student's perspective. We have student tech Sherpas, we call them. They basically are TAs. They help teachers. I have students that are teachers' webmasters. The teacher is their web page, but the student's the one that does kind of the tech support for them. And basically the mindset there is it's a win-win, right? The teacher gets tech support. It's they're comfortable. It's on time. It's always they're available all the time. And the student gets that professional setting where they're actually working kind of for a client, and they have something they have to make sure it looks a certain way. And I think putting our kids in those experiences, in those environments, the more we can do that, the better it is.
We're at the Center for Science of Information, and it's a multi-school consortium. We've got Purdue University, Stanford, Princeton, graduate students and postdocs from these different higher education institutions, and so we're looking at it as a way for them to collaborate and communicate as well. On some of the research work that they're doing. So, in answer to that one question, like maybe he was asking, yes, there's higher education institutions, I think, that are using Google Apps, if that's what he was asking.
Yeah, and I'm sure I know there's a bunch of different universities around the country that are, I don't know how many doing courses, but I know there's a bunch that are using, probably Jordan, you know better than we do, but a whole list.
Yeah, there's many. We have, I think now, 66 of the top 100 schools, according to the U.S. News and World Report, and several other kinds of schools out there, community colleges, liberal arts colleges, state systems. So yeah, I think it's interesting to start thinking about the connections that start in primary and secondary education and how that can carry on to higher education. Because I think everyone is looking at these topics now. So. I didn't see any other questions on the stream, so you could feel free to continue. We have about 5 minutes left, so.
Okay. So the questions. The last thing, and I mentioned this in the last session, as I said earlier, as far as kind of like one of the pieces of this, and I think Paul talked about this a little bit, is the digitization of non-digital things. Now, when we're talking K through 4, K through 5, that's a very different animal than it is basically 6th grade on. By the time you get to 6th grade or 5th grade, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, they can kind of take ownership of them digitizing their stuff. Either is it video, is it still pictures, is it whatever it is. I have a quick video here I'll show, and this is basically a montage of some of the ways we've done this. Make sure you guys can see this. Seems like got so many tabs now. I'd probably pause the internet here.
So, Kern, I think we're having trouble seeing the video.
Sorry. Okay.
No worries. You could post it on the stream, though, after.
All right, I'll do that. Basically, the idea here is one of the questions I get asked a lot is, for example, okay, the stream didn't come through. Is how do you digitize math? For example, how do we include math in our portfolios or our online courses? And one of the things that we've done is we still collect digital versions. We collect the Google Docs or whatever, but the kids get in the habit of using their webcams to take photos of their math work, and that's how they hand it in. They slide that image into a Google Doc, share that with the teacher. And somebody asked me on Twitter just a little while ago from the last session about, do we completely stop pencil work? And the answer is no. We still do, whatever the assignment is, we still complete that. The only difference is kids go through the process of digitizing their work and getting that into the teacher and handing that in. So there's training there. Obviously, there's not only training for the students but for the teachers as well. But once they've done it, then they have that kind of in their repertoire as far as their skill set, and they can kind of go forward and they know how to do that for next time. I don't know if there's anything else specifically that we want to cover. That's pretty much everything. The last thing, and I mentioned this in the last session, but I'll mention this here as well. Whatever system that you use, again, we're using obviously Google tools, but it's really important that you're able to get the stuff out of it. There's a website called dataliberation.org, and that website goes through and that will show you how to get all of your Google stuff, for example, if you want to take out all your Google Docs or your Google Sites or whatever. And the reason why that's important to me is none of the students will be what we consider in a data silo. None of them will be kind of put their information into something and it's almost impossible to get it back out. And that's really important for me, for them to be able to move it around either to a different account or just to take it out and have it on their own. There's another website that addresses this that's called google.com/takeout. And what that does, that creates archives for the students of their work, like, for example, docs or pictures for Picasso or whatever it is. And they can download those all together at once. So if you have a kid that's like, yep, I want to get out of here, it's like 2 clicks or 3 clicks, and they've got all their stuff, and they can remove it. So that's another important part of this as well. You can check out mevlc.org if you're more interested in the site itself and kind of what we're doing there. This will be kind of a work in progress. We'll keep working on that site. You can kind of check often, but that's where most of the framework stuff that I talked about, most of the pieces will end up on there, and you can use those or however you want to use that information.
All right. Well, it looks like that will wrap this up. So thank you so much, Kern, for conducting 2 sessions with us today for the EduOnAir. Thank you to everyone in the Hangout for your questions and engagement. And thank you to everyone out there watching on the live stream. We hope that this was helpful and informative.
Great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.